In my case, as I was hitting 40, I'd never talked to a financial advisor. And my husband and I are like, okay, let's go talk to someone. So we went to talk to the financial advisor. And the first exercise he had my husband and I do is to rank how we wanted to spend our money. And not for the cups of coffee every day, but for the big things we were going to spend. And he said, you guys are going to live to 100. That was good news. Financial advisor told us we're both going to live to 100. So we needed a plan for it. So since we're living to 100, what are the big things we're going to spend money on? And go home and rank those number 1, number 2, number 3, number 5, all the way till you start getting into money that doesn't matter. That was a really good conversation to have with my husband. How often are you guys going to buy cars? Well, shoot, I want a car every 5 years. My husband's driving his old truck for 20 years. And so did we want to pay for our kids' education? Yes, we did. Is that more important than our retirement?
All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. We have quite the treat for you again today. My dear friend, Tamara Sniffen, is with us today, and I cannot wait to introduce you all to her. So Tamara is an authentic, high energy, and highly accomplished executive with a remarkable track record of resolving a myriad of complex challenges to drive growth. Her personal brand is rooted in a unique blend of operation optimization, organizational governance, financial expertise, culture change, and strategic vision that can significantly impact an organization's sustainable growth and stakeholder or shareholder value. So currently, Tamara is serving as the VP of Commercial Excellence at Stryker, and she has demonstrated exceptional leadership through her tenure, spearheading some pretty critical initiatives such as the $5.5 billion acquisition of Wright Medical Technology. In addition to that, Tamara is also a dedicated advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion. She's held influential roles in women's advocacy, community service, and nonprofit organizations such as the Athena Alliance, Chief, the Boys Team Charity, and the Silicon Valley Leadership Group. As president of the Stryker Women's Network, she's championed company-wide policy changes, diversity training, and cultivated an inclusive work environment, ultimately attracting and retaining top talent, driving innovation, and enhancing corporate reputation. My word, Tamara, I'm exhausted just reading all of those things. It is so awesome to have you here with us.
It's my pleasure to be here. And I can't thank you, Olivia, and Archita for all the work that you have done to advance women, to embrace inclusion, really making an incredible difference out there, and really a joy to be here with you today.
Thank you so much.
We're so excited to have you, Tamara, on the Embracing Only podcast. And I know we have the first question to kick things off right here as we step into what I know will be an amazing episode.
So, Tia, the question that we get a lot of the times for a lot of the ladies that are sitting in kind of that middle management route, right? So it's early in the year and they're thinking to themselves, man, I have been bumping my head up against the ceiling. I'm working super hard. I'm doing all the things that I feel like I should be doing. Maybe I've gotten year over year amazing talent reviews, but I seem to be stuck in the same spot. What piece of advice would you offer those ladies that are seeking to get to the executive ranks?
Yeah, great question. And I see this all the time. I mean, the first thing you need to do is take that step forward, right? You can't stop. You can't be paralyzed. You've got to be like, how do I do something different than what I've done before? And what I see working best is who is in your network that can help you? Who do you have in your network that has someone in their network that they can ask to spend time with you? I can think of a few individuals right now, females at Stryker, who have reached out to me to say, hey, can you give me 3 names of people I can reach out to talk about what roles might come up, what advice they have to help me move forward. And I think, having that courage to, one, go to your network and ask your network to tap into their network is really what's going to open up those pathways for them to move forward.
Love that. And you said something, the courage, and it kind of ties to something Olivia and I talk about a lot, Tamara, is you can't wait for someone else to come and create that opportunity for you all the time or anytime. You kind of have to help lead the way yourself. So for folks like either starting earlier in their career journey or midway through their career journey, if you were to think of some initial questions or ways in which they may start building that relationship with key influential individuals within a company, what might that approach look like so that they can then have that courage over time to then go tap into that individual because they've built that relationship over time? Because you can't go take from a relationship after having just barely invested in it as well.
I'm going to start with how I felt, and then I'm going to answer that question. I came from a very, very, very small village in Northern California, 19 girls in my graduating class, 50 kids, 3 hours from a shopping mall, right? And so there were no corporations, there were no companies, there were no executives. My mom was a special needs school teacher. My dad was a building contractor. So when I got to corporate America, it was like, or, a large corporation like Stryker, and I would see these executives, like I was frozen. I can remember being in my first presentation and just being in awe that they could get up in front of a crowd and talk like that. And, I was scared. I would never have asked a question. I never would have moved in that room, right? If I think back 30 years ago of how I really felt. Today, that's so different, right? Like nothing, because you've had so many experiences. So, to build that courage, whenever you're at that low, let's just assume it's a career low for these, because they're frustrated. Like, why aren't things moving? I've been here too long. I have got more potential. I can do it. And you're feeling that, but you're stuck, right? Who has said, hey, look, just call me. I'm here for you. People say that and we still don't acknowledge that. But we can think of people where, gosh, I see that girl, that executive or that male taking others under mentorship or taking them to lunch. Be observant. Who are those people that want to give and want to help back? I have a story. I lived in Japan for 2 years after college. And when I came back, it was, 1998. There was no internet, no LinkedIn. To find a job after 2 years in Japan, it's like you go and you pick up the newspaper, you're reading through my mom was a school teacher, dad a building contractor. They could not help me. And I felt so alone and so lost in that moment. And so I think back to that time and think about others that might be in a similar situation, clearly a different day and age. And so I think just realizing the executives aren't scary, they want to help, they have their own story. You're going to find that the majority of them want to lean in, they want to give advice. Execs want to talk about themselves. They want to look at me. I'm excited to tell you about my stories today. And so I think just being curious, asking, more often than not, they're going to say yes. And if they say no, who's the next person that you think might have that open door policy?
Well, Olivia, can I just say one thing? You said such an important thing. It was actually a pivotal point in my career was take people up on their offer when they say so, right? So there's a statistic somewhere and half the statistics are made up. So I might be making up this percentage, but it's pretty high. But it's like 80 or 90% of people do not follow up when people say, do follow up with me. And so every time to this day, when I talk twice a year I went to Michigan Tech. And so I do a little chat with the graduating class coming through Germany. One of the professors brings them over here. And I always tell them, all of you sitting around the table here today, only one of you will follow up with me based on me telling you, do not hesitate to reach out to me. And it is literally statistically proven over the last 4 years, at least 8 times over. Just one person out of that entire class has followed up. And, 80% of them have landed a job because they followed up and then took some ways in which they could move forward, right? But there was a pivotal moment, Tamara, at Stryker, actually. I don't know if you ever met Kevin Conway, but I shared his name all the time. But I was a quality engineer up in the UP, not in the UP, in Quebec. And I was giving a presentation and he said, if you ever need a job at marketing, give me a call. And this was, so 4 or 5 months pass along. Stryker's like, Achita, we need to bring you back. You're going to be a senior quality engineer. My time was up at Quebec and we'd done what we needed to do. And I was like, man, there's got to be something more than just being a senior quality engineer. nothing wrong with being a senior quality engineer, but I wanted to do more and I wanted to fix the problems before they became a problem, right? Like, so how do we get new product, right? So on a Friday afternoon, I picked up the phone and I was like, hey, Kevin, remember me? You said if I ever need a job in marketing, I should give you a call. And then he's like, oh my gosh, Archita, the girl who was doing this job in international marketing just put her 2 weeks notice in because she's leaving to become a teacher. Give Dan a call. You have the job. It changed the trajectory of my career. And this is the thing. We do not take people up on the offer of following up. And there's so much value in doing that, especially the individuals you mentioned, Tamara, too, who you see are helping others. Because there are some people who may say that, but they may not follow through. But there are so many amazing examples of individuals who do follow through on the things they say. So take people up on their offer, folks. You heard that. Here.
I love that. And I couldn't agree with you more. I think in the vein of taking people up on their offers to follow up, there's also this message around feedback. And a lot of people that we talk to, Tamara, women get so caught up in receiving feedback, especially if it's not something that you want to hear. So over the course of your career, how has your relationship with feedback developed? And what message would you give ladies that are on this climb today?
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Yeah. Feedback is scary, right? And so many women, they have those perfectionist tendencies, right? They just are so conscientious and want to be, do everything right. And they work so hard, so they don't want the feedback. But I mean, I'm a true believer in feedback is such a gift. And I'll tell you, the times that I have gotten feedback, it has stuck with me and has changed how I've showed up even today. And let me give you an example. When I was doing my executive MBA, this was, 20 years ago, there was a CEO in my executive MBA program of a bank. And I was very young. And there was a night that we were all out at dinner, the whole cohort. And he said, you were one of the most talented young leaders, and I was young at the time, young leaders that I have ever met. But you are really fast at speaking up and you've got great thoughts, but you just held back, stayed a little bit more calm, listened to what others had to say first, and then come in with that feedback once you've had even more time to think and to build on what they've had to say. You are going to be just lights out. And so I've really I took that feedback to heart and have developed that over the years to sit back, let my thought just percolate a little bit, get stronger. And I have realized that taking that time, listening to others, then my thoughts are even richer for the conversation. So that feedback was 20 years ago, and I still think about it all the time. So when I'm presenting, often there's like 5 or 6 questions that I will give people I really trust. I trust and I value their feedback. So Olivia and I have worked together. I trust her wholeheartedly. I may give her, like, Olivia, there's 6 things I want you to tell me after this podcast. Did I do anything that was distracting? Right? Maybe I played with my hands too much. Did I do anything that was distracting? What really resonated with you? What do you remember most? Very specific questions, and then ask for that feedback based off of that versus open-ended. Because then you're just going to get, oh, I thought you did great, versus really answering what you might be able to grow from.
Hi, everyone. My name is Olivia Cream. If you are a corporate girly and you are struggling, you're feeling stuck, maybe you're feeling underpaid, overqualified, you're struggling with your boss, or bigger yet, you're even trying to clearly articulate what it is that you want from your corporate career, I am the coach for you. So if you're ambitious and you've got goals to accomplish and you want to accomplish them quickly, check out my website, oliviacream.com. I would love to help you reach your goals.
Hi, everybody. I'm Archita Fritz, your other host of the Embracing Only podcast. If you're ready to leave corporate, or you've changed a couple of corporate jobs and want to start a profitable side brilliance You've made the decision, but you feel unsure of the next steps. Here's how I can help you. I can guide you through a successful transition to entrepreneurship to help turn those ideas into profit. So reach out to me on LinkedIn or visit me on architafritz.com to accelerate your empowered transitions. Now, back to the episode.
I love that. And I love your point. I know you drilled home here. And I know, Archita, you took a breath and you want to ask a question here. You drilled home on the point, trust, because I think it is so important around feedback. I think giving and receiving feedback is a little bit of art and science, right? And it's not everyone you should let into your headspace from a feedback perspective. So you do really have to be really intentional about who you let in to your brain space to be like, okay, I really need to take this feedback to heart. And I think trusting the source is so important.
Yes, 100%. And the reason I say that, because Tamara, I wholeheartedly agree with you. And, a lot of us women who are labeled passionate would agree that, now I've learned a new word, which is we're more perceptive. And, I'm going to own that and we're all going to run with it. I've been given the feedback that, you're too passionate. And there was a study that was done at the end of last year. It was published in Fortune, and they interviewed 23,000 employees across 250 organizations. And they identified that 76% of high-performing women receive negative feedback compared to only 2% of high-achieving men, right? And so I think what's really important as both leaders who are sharing feedback and as individuals receiving feedback is how do we ensure that we're focused on the metrics or the, as much as we can be rational over personality. Because a lot of times, I think Olivia and I have tackled this in a couple of other episodes, is we're sitting in a 9-box review or something like that, talent review. Someone's like, yeah, there's just something about her. It's just like, it just doesn't sit right. So for leaders who are sitting and, helping guide that feedback, what might be your feedback on the way in which they can audit the language they may use in order to provide feedback that is actually rooted in not their limiting beliefs, but rooted in fact to help that individual move forward?
Yeah. So one of the things that we're using currently is the word "and." So we might say, I loved your story, Archita, about Kevin Conway and offering you the marketing role. And they're trying to help me go from great to amazing in the way I, in your case, share that story next time. So that's how I use it. And that seems to have worked really well. I want to go back to something you said around, in that 9-box, in those talent reviews, or when we're assessing talent, there's a lot more negative feedback that comes out for females than males. And this is something I've thought about a lot, especially early in my career. I felt like we had to operate within this box, right? And it was a really small little box. And if we were, I don't know, too strong, we would be called bossy. Or if we were too cynical, we would be called the B word. Whereas, men, they could explode, where my eyes would like bug out in meetings, watch them and explode. And that was okay behavior. And they weren't really criticized to it, brushed off. I just think that's really hard. Now, what's been great about that, as last year I hit 50, I'm now 51 and 25 years at Stryker. So you start caring less, right? And that authenticity and that experience allows you to be, you know what, I'm gonna buck that box a little bit and really be myself. And that's really freeing. And I encourage folks to try to feel that or find that earlier, as long as you're being respectful, you're living true to integrity and values that are true to you. I just think we need to be ourselves and not live inside this little box that sometimes we feel we need to.
I love having these discussions with you, and I'm so happy we were able to get you on here, because every time you say something, it triggers another thought that gets me excited here. And I think one of those thoughts, as you mentioned towards the end here, is sometimes women, especially ambitious women, we get into this mode of, I went off and did this thing because some well-intended Yahoo said that I couldn't do it. Not because I actually want to do the thing that I'm actually doing right now, but because somebody said that I couldn't do it, I went off to prove them wrong. Or worse yet, we have some women that are like, oh my gosh, I've never really asked for an opportunity in my life. I just keep getting tapped and I go off in different directions, but I don't actually know where I want to be. For those ladies that are still trying to figure out what authenticity actually looks like for them, right? What is it that really sets their hearts on fire? What advice would you give them in figuring out who they are? And how did you figure that out for yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to give a couple different answers. That's such a rich question. So I think the best question on how to figure that out for yourself is it's going to take time. It is not easy. And don't think like, oh, I should just know that. I'm still asking myself that question. And it changes, right, as you learn and you grow. But the question I ask myself is, what matters most? What matters most? And I think early in my career for like, okay, at 50, at 60, what's really going to matter most? And for me, I wanted to have a successful career, yes. But I also really wanted to have a successful marriage. I wanted to make sure that I was there to raise my kids from 0 to 18. And when they were 18, I wouldn't have had any regrets. I wanted to have a lot of close friends. I love people. I absolutely love people. And as a little girl, I wanted more than anything at all parts of my life to have a lot of friends. And I can think back to those early college years, and I've got some amazing friends from college, but like that first year when you're trying to figure out who are my people, it can be a real sort of dark, lonely time in some of that, like, or I'm hanging out with these girls, or this group, and they're not my people. And it doesn't feel right. And I'll tell you, when I hit 50 and all of a sudden I'm looking back on my career, yes, but what I really started doing is looking back on my life and what mattered most. And that was family and friends and mentoring women and all these things that were really true to me. When I took my first senior leadership role, I was the only female on that senior leadership team. Now, they put me in charge of regulatory and quality, which I knew nothing about, director of regulatory and quality. There was another director female within the division I was in, but she was a director of marketing. And her advice to me was, hey, you're going to be on this team with 100% men. You need to read the sports page every single day, because when you go into that boardroom, they're going to be talking about what happened with Monday Night Football. And I'm like, well, I really don't watch sports, and that's not what I want to be reading in the newspaper. And it was with the knowledge and the experience and talking about what I'm reading about and not necessarily what they're talking about.
Crazy. I was on a client call last week and there was a Penn State Notre Dame game. Like, I have literally no idea. I know what those two teams are, and that's it. And so these guys were talking, and this is a client, right? And so this is not a company or anything like that. And so I came in and all of the guys were like, Archita, like, I don't know if you know anything about it. I'm like, no, so let's change the topic, because the thing is, there were 5 or 6 women on there who were not even participating. It was just the men who were just like, Penn State, Notre Dame, Penn State, Notre Dame. And so it's so important to be able to do that. And so this conversation around authenticity, I want to unpack that a little bit. So there's this pressure on women to be likable, right? And that can make authenticity feel really, really risky, especially when we're trying to show up genuinely as ourselves as leaders. What would be your advice there, Tamara? Because one of the things that drives me absolutely nuts is when people are like, just be yourself. That is the worst advice you can give somebody, because what is be yourself? Show up in sweatpants like you would on a Sunday afternoon while you're lounging and, relaxing. What does it really mean? And so for me, it has been a process of kind of understanding. It's an opportunity to learn yourself and then choose to share parts of yourself in that process of learning, but being true to what you're learning about yourself. From your perspective, Tamara, you kind of shared what that authenticity feels like to you as you raised your kids, etc. But for women who are navigating the corporate workspace and going on that tightrope of likability and authenticity, how could you give them some advice around how they can reconcile with those fears that they might have to kind of, balance is not the right word, but Jenga their way through that?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. I think I go back to, what do you value, right? And maybe you value, when I'm thinking one way, when the room is leaning another way, I'm going to provide that other perspective, right? So what are those values? Write them down for yourself. I think that at the root is what authenticity is. These are my values and I'm going to live by them. I have a mentee right now. She is fabulous. When she was thinking about taking, and she just got a new leadership role, and she has, hey, this is my leadership philosophy. And in there very clearly, these are my values. And I really appreciate that. Now, when you brought up the example of sweatpants, I think you've got to, or, hey, my authentic self, I'm in a baseball cap most of the time and wearing my sweatshirt, of course, but you just got to, hey, in these situations, what is appropriate? What's professional? I texted Olivia today. Should I be in a blazer or should I be a blouse? Be in a blouse. It's okay to ask those questions to say, hey, I want to be comfortable. I can, yes, we all prefer to be in our sweatpants, but I can show up in different ways in what is professional, what is appropriate. And so I think feel free to ask those questions too. And then, let it just figure it out that way.
So I'm going to switch gears just a little bit on us. And I wanted to throw out this topic of money because I think our girlies in corporate love this topic the least. And so Archita and I have been talking about money and getting comfortable talking about money for as long as we've both been doing this podcast. So Tamara, as an executive, when you think about your journey up the corporate ladder and the conversations you did or didn't have about your salary, about what a promotion should look like, about whether you're compensated fairly to market, whether you even thought about those questions to begin with, what advice would you have for ladies maybe sitting in that middle manager perspective that haven't even started to think about, am I getting paid my value in the streets? What would you say to those ladies?
I would say be curious. And I've used that word several times today, right? Be respectful, but be curious, right? Is my pay range a lot? Can you tell me that? Ask your HR partner, hey, can I understand what my range is? Where am I in the range? Just be curious. Is that something I can see? I want to get to the next level. What would the pay range look like at the next level, right? Be curious, ask those questions. I think that was where I would start, is just feeling comfortable saying, hey, what is appropriate? What can I know? What is fair market value? Just be curious, ask.
I love the curiosity piece, Tamara, because, a lot of times, and actually not a lot of times, I just will take my example. For years, I saw my offer letter and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, because it was money like my parents had never seen money before. I had never seen money before. So it was like, oh my gosh, this makes sense. And even when I became a leader, I would advocate furiously for my team to get a pay raise here or a higher compensation as hiring someone in. But I never did that for myself because I was so uncomfortable talking about money with peers, with friends, with family. And so the curiosity is such an important piece, because if you're just curiously having these conversations with your friends, with your family, not only at times when there is a moment to kind of go make the ask, but prior to that, you're banking data that helps you then make a more rational ask versus one that's like pushed through with emotion, because you're just like, oh my gosh, I finally recognized I deserve 30% more, or this role could, is well underpaid, but you're stepping in with more focus. So with regard to that rational ask, I want to go kind of double click on that. So I've had some amazing humans, they know who they are because they're going to be listening to this, who used to be on my team, and they would come with the most detailed spreadsheets. Okay. And I love them for the enthusiasm and like the specificity with where they came. But if you were a leader and you had an individual, a woman, actually, let's get really specific, a woman come up to you to be like, hey, Tamara, I've done my homework. What might be your next steps as a leader to help guide them through? Okay, this is how we're going to go make the ask for what you're asking for, if it is reasonable or otherwise.
I lean heavily on my HR partner, right? And is there room to negotiate? Is it fair? trying to understand that. I mean, in large companies like I'm in, there's going to be pretty tight regulations around it. They want it to be fair for everybody. So we're looking at that really closely. But I think a good leader is going to work with the individual to understand that with their HR partners, like, is there any room or not? I mean, that would be the first thing I'd do. You made me think of one other just example because you said women versus men, right? So my husband and I, we have a Airbnb in Aptos, very new. My husband loves construction. He's going into retirement. And so for the last year and a half, he's been fixing it up. He loves to really, hammer in those nails. So we just put it on the market. And thus far, every man that has gone to rent the Airbnb has negotiated with us.
I believe
now, I've been renting Airbnbs for years. Never once have I thought to negotiate. I'm like, that's the set price. The women who are renting it, not one of them has negotiated with us on Airbnb. And when these men come in, and this guy met us last weekend, really nice guy. And he said, look, we just sold our place. We want it for 3 months. Would you be, because we're going in for longer, would you be willing to go down to this monthly rate? Every man has negotiated and asked for a lower price. Not once. The women just take it at the price that we've put on there. Just ask, be curious.
Tamara, I'm like twitching in my chair here. I'm sure everybody sees me jumping up and down here, and you are nailing it. You are absolutely nailing it. I think so often we are so afraid. I don't know if it's the no that we're afraid of. We just want to be perfect and we want to have 100% hit rate. And so we're afraid of getting that rejection. But more often than not, the men, every single thing is up for negotiation, right? Like they don't have it in their head that anything is set and firm. Absolutely everything is up for negotiation. Where women tend to be so rigid, right? Like we want to match all 10 things on the job description before we even try for the job. We take the offer right out the gate, don't even push back, not even a little bit every single time. So some of this, when we think about fighting that gender pay gap, some of it, we have to be willing to say, you know what, I'm going to take accountability for the part that I'm playing in my own suffering. When was the last time I negotiated my offer? Did I even check the market to see if I'm getting my value? And to your point, Tamara, do I have a relationship with HR? And do I even understand my company's comp philosophy? So I know a little bit about what I'm talking about when I'm going into these negotiations. Ladies, this part starts with you. And if you keep being afraid to having these conversations, I don't know what to tell you. You guys are going to stay broke. You guys are going to wear us out. You have to learn to have these conversations and have a little courage to do it.
One other on the conversations, that goes with those you're potentially sharing money with. And if you're not sharing money, then awesome, you make this list yourself. But in my case, as I was hitting 40, I'd never talked to a financial advisor. And my husband and I are like, okay, let's go talk to someone. So we went to talk to the financial advisor. And the first exercise he had my husband and I do is to rank how we wanted to spend our money. And not for the cups of coffee every day, but for the big things we were going to spend. And he said, you guys are going to live to 100. That was good news. Financial advisor told us we're both going to live to 100. So we needed a plan for it. So since we're living to 100, what are the big things we're going to spend money on? And go home and rank those number 1, number 2, number 3, number 5, all the way till you start getting into money that doesn't matter. That was a really good conversation to have with my husband. How often are you guys going to buy cars? Well, shoot, I want a car every 5 years. My husband's fine driving his old truck for 20 years. And so did we want to pay for our kids' education? Yes, we did. Is that more important than our retirement? Probably not, because we don't want our kids to have to pay to support us when they're adults. So let's get ourselves set for retirement. And then number 2 would be paying for their education. Number 3 then would be their dream house. So we had to put the dream house on hold for a few years to work on number 1 and number 2. Those were really healthy financial conversations to have in the household and get square on. So if you haven't done that exercise and you are living with a partner and sharing money with anybody, I would highly recommend that.
I'm literally nodding my head, like if anyone's watching the video, because this is literally the conversation we had a few years ago, because it's so important. Because a lot of times the way we save, invest our money is influenced by either how our parents did it, our family did it, etc. Or, our kind of trajectory has changed and we're kind of just doing it arbitrarily. So then as we go in and we ask for promotions, or we're like looking at like our years or our life ahead, we assume that, every 2 years, and I'm not saying that you should not get rewarded for your hard work. Gosh, absolutely not. Like you ought go after it, but be really clear on your financial goals, irrespective of which company you're in, what kind of job you're doing, whatever it might be. If you're not clear on your financial goals, all your asks anywhere are so arbitrary, you won't feel like you can follow through on them good enough. And then you'll be frustrated for an arbitrary reason because it's not rooted in something that is actually focused on a goal your family has aligned on. And so it was so funny. We had the exact same. I mean, I don't know if that was your ranking, but we were like our financial advisor was pushing us, and she's like, "You can't expect. We have 3 kids, right?" And so it's like, you can't expect to have all your 3 kids' college paid. You need to have retirement focused on first. And I was like, I can't imagine not having. And it was like a whole back and forth. But having that clarity was so valuable because then you can go on and make those other decisions as well. So I'm going to pivot away from money. And I want to talk about something you said earlier around, I think, Olivia, you brought the topic about the word no. Individuals in general, we all humans, we struggle to hear the word no. And sometimes the best things come out of those words no. So Tamara, in your career, what was one of the most painful no's you have had to navigate through? And how did you kind of turn that around and made lemonade and a lemonade stand out of it?
Oh my goodness gracious. No. There was a point in my career, and I've done operations almost my supply chain, obviously the stint in RAQA, but there were times in my career where I was asked to go lead Canada, go lead a business unit. And it would have required moving. And part of the reason I have a visceral reaction, it was so hard for me to tell leaders that I loved and I respected, and potentially roles that would have advanced my career in other ways, having to say no to those, like it just, even now, a pit in my stomach. And some of these stories are 10 years old. Right now, I have too many mentors. My assistant is telling me all the time, like, you cannot take on any more mentees, because I think I said mentors, but mentees, because my calendar is like, she's like, your whole day is just, you've got too much. You've got mentoring. I'm pushing some out. They're no longer monthly. They're going to quarterly. But I want to help everybody. So it's really hard for me to tell people no. But in those situations, what I've found is helpful. Like when I need to say, I can't right now. No, I can't move and do that role right now. Or no, I can't take on another mentee because it's not fair for my team or for X, Y, and Z. I offer solutions. I say, no, but here are some solutions. No, I can't do that role, but I can think of 3 people that would nail it. No, I can't take you on as a mentee right now, but I can think of 3 people who I really think would be an amazing fit for you. And so back to that, we talked a lot about being curious. We talked about what matters most. We talked about giving feedback and the and. So my feedback is no, and I've got 3 ideas for you. And that really helps me when I need to say no.
I love that, because you're saying no and you're protecting your own boundaries, but you're also helping potentially other women rise by advocating for them in literally the same breath. So I love the balance there.
Hallelujah. Yes, yes, yes. So how to protect your no's. And you're not just saying no, because that's the problem, but you said that you're offering a solution. And that is so valuable in those no's. But knowing that we have to say no too, because we can't be doing everything. Because otherwise we won't serve ourselves, our families, our communities, or whoever we choose to kind of be a part of, right? So I love that little reframe there, Tamara. Thank you.
100%. And for the ladies that are burning out, ladies, let's be honest. Let's look ourselves in the mirror. You're burning out because you're not honoring your no. That's what's happening right now. That is the core of the burnout. So if that is happening, you got to do some soul searching, because you're probably saying yes to some stuff that you should be saying no to. Okay, so as we're coming to a close here, Tamara, I wanted to wrap up with this last question. You have done so much work around DEI, whether it's being an advocate for women, an advocate for women with intersectionalities, a great ally to the LGBT plus community. And I think there are a lot of folks out there that are feeling really uncertain in these times. As a leader, and as someone that is really passionate about this work, what advice would you offer someone that's out there in the workforce, the women that are out there in the workforce that might be feeling pretty nervous?
I'm first going to say that there are a lot of people that care about you, that love you, that respect you, that are here for you, and find the people that serve you, that make you feel good, and walk away for the ones that don't. And that's what you look, there are tons of people right now that are ready to put their arms around you, and find them, make them your friends, make them your community. That would be my advice, is that there are a lot of folks like me that want to do just that.
Well, cheers to that. I couldn't agree more. You got to find your tribe out there, ladies. Well, I will let Archita have the last word before we take her home here.
Tamara, we just want to say thank you so much. I was kind of making notes as you were sharing, because there's so many gems that you shared. And it started with, how do you not lose the opportunity to follow up with those who say they want to help, and that recognize that, feedback can be your friend, but how it can help you also learn more about yourself. And you can do this through recognizing both your language that you're using and the word that you gave us, which was "and." I love the use of the word "and." You're sharing what you have to share in a rational way, and to give them a way and a place. You also shared with us, as we're working through so many aspects of our life, whether it's promotions, asking for money, asking for opportunities, etc., let them be rooted in your values. So take the time to actually put pen to paper and write down, what are these values? And then how do all of these other elements ladder up to those values themselves? And to do that, you encourage all of us to be curious. So ladies, almost print that out and put that up. How in this moment of feedback, of asking for what I want for myself, am I being curious enough? And then when you do set those no's and you do share those no's, offer solutions. Because you don't want to come to the table with just that 2-letter word. Come to the table with a 2-letter word and something to help move that conversation forward as well. And last but not least, we're so glad you're part of the Embracing Only tribe. And as you encourage each and every one of us to do, encourage all the ladies out there, it is a tough moment, irrespective of the intersections that you sit at. So find your tribe and take a moment to breathe within that tribe that you have found. Tamara, thank you so much for being here on the Embracing Only podcast. Please let our listeners know where they can find you, how they can connect with you, and not all sign up to be mentees with you though, but connect with you.
Thank you. My honor to be here. And you can find me on LinkedIn, or Instagram. I'm here for all of you. Good luck in your very successful careers. I wish you the very best. And thank you, Archita and Olivia, for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Tamara.
Thank you so much, Tamara. And as always, ladies, we're here to prove to you that not only can you survive, but you can absolutely still thrive out here in these corporate streets. So as always, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Till next time.